Now we want to add a new tab here for product. So let me close it here. Let me copy this home and paste that one more time. Actually, I will remove the privacy. We don't need that. So the controller name will be the product controller, and in there we will have the index action method. Now I am not a big fan of using just index. Now the default action name, I will change that to product index rather than index, because having too many index pages or views in the application just confuses me. So we have the product index. We need to create product controller, which is the first thing. Inside the controllers, right click, add a new controller. We will go with the empty controller and we will call this as product controller. When we have to retrieve anything from the API, we will be using product service that we created inside mango.web. So we have to retrieve that using dependency injection. Let me do that here. Once we configure the product service in dependency injection, we won't be having the index action method. What we want is product index. We will copy and paste it right here. Now all of the action methods, I like to make them async. So async task of I action result. What we want to retrieve here is a list of all of the products DTO. The product DTO is inside mango.web.models, so you'll have to add that using statement. We will call this as list and we'll initialize that to the new list of product DTO. Rather than doing this, we have an improvement and we can just use new with the new C#. Then we need to call our product service. So we can say variable response is equal to await underscore product service. In there we have multiple methods that are available. We want to call the get all products async, and right here we have to pass the class that it will retrieve. That will be response DTO. Now why are we adding this? If we go and examine our API, and if we examine the API controller, you will see that is the object that we return back from the API. So right here we will be receiving the same response object, but it is not the same class. We had to create that class again inside the mango.web inside models. Because with microservices, you should never share the code. So even if you have to create some duplicate data, that is the route that you should take. All of the projects should be self-isolated. That being said, we don't have to pass any parameters at all. So this looks great. Once we get the response, then we have to deserialize our output from the response.result. So right here, we will check if response is not null and if response is success valid. So if it is successful, then we can populate the list by deserializing. So we will have JSON convert here, and on there we have the deserialized object. What will be the output? The output will be a list of product DTO. And here we will be passing, and here we will pass convert.toString, and we have the response.result. Perfect. So that will convert the result to string, and JSON convert will deserialize that string into a list of product DTO and assign that to the list right here. When we return back to the view, we will pass that list. Before we work on displaying the list, let me add a debug point here and see if this actually works. If you just run the application like this, it won't work because our API is not running. So in order to make this work, we will require both API as well as the front project to work. So we will have to right click on the solution and we will click setup and we will click set startup project. We will select multiple startup project and we want to start both of these projects, apply and OK. You can see right here it displays multiple startup projects are configured. So great, when we run it, you can see the API is running here and we have the front end running right here. I have to change the spelling here, but this you can see at the bottom, it is going to product index. When we click here, we hit our debugging point. So right here, I will press F10. Let's see what the response is. Response is null. That means we have some issue inside the API and the calls are not being made. So in the next video, let's examine what's actually going on and continue from there.